Okay, we'll call the September the 20th Yelm Planning Commission to order at 4 p.m. Casey, could you take a roll call?
I would love to. Jerry Fugit.
Here.
It's time for me to learn how to pronounce your last name. Can you pronounce it for me?
It was spelled F-U-J-I-K. Fugit.
Fugit, thank you. Okay. John Thompson.
Here.
Floyd Sheldon.
Here.
Bob Howard. I know he's here.
He's got his.
I'm gonna call him here. Bob, you're muted and your camera's off, but I know you're there. Ann Warmond.
Hi.
Carlos Perez.
Here.
Okay. And who am I missing?
Okay. We'll now do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of
of the United States of America and to the
and
republic
to the republic
Which
which
which it stands,
one nation,
one nation,
under God,
under God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
with liberty
with liberty and
and
justice
justice
for
for
all.
all. Thank you. I would like now to have people look at the agenda, and I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda as printed.
I move that we accept the agenda as printed.
I second the motion.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Okay, opposed? Motion carried. You also have a copy of the minutes from our last meeting. Does anybody see any additions or corrections? Then I would entertain a motion that we accept the minutes as printed.
I'll make the motion.
Who is that?
Bob Howard, I'll make the motion.
Okay,
I second.
okay. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Public communication or comments? Are there any?
I have not received anything from the public.
Okay. You all have received from Casey. Before we go into that, Casey, could you introduce the new folks on our committee that from the city?
I would love to. So we recently had Tammy Merriman and Grant Beck move along. Tammy is now the permit manager for the city of Tumwater, and Grant has retired but is helping out a friend, and so he is acting as the deputy community development director for the city of Lacey. And we have now merged and are now under Cody Colt's. It's now called Public Services. It used to be called Public Works. So we now live in the Public Works Public Services Department. And Landon Hawes works under Cody as our new planning and building manager.
Hello, everyone. As Casey said, my name is Landon Hawes. Came here from Cedar Rapids, Iowa, where I was serving as the zoning administrator out there, but I'm originally from Oregon, so definitely a child of the Northwest. Grateful to be back here in the trees and the nice humidity instead of the choking humidity out in Iowa. Yeah, really grateful to be here in Yelm. Really enjoying it so far. Yelm's cool town, and looking forward to helping make it an even better place to live than it already is. Yeah, a little about me: big reader, big hiker, definitely a sports fan. I like the Mariners and the Portland Timbers. Sorry, everyone hates me when I say that. Yeah, those are some things about me. Looking forward to doing a lot of hiking around here. So thanks thanks for being here today, and excited to be working with all of you a little bit more.
And then we also have with us Sarah Williams. She is another assistant planner like myself.
Hello, nice to meet everyone. I am also, well, I'm actually from the East Coast, came a little bit further, Pennsylvania, Ohio area. Nothing like too crazy special about me. I'm just happy to be here and happy to help any way I can. This is my first large planning job, and I'm really excited to be working with Casey and Landon and all of you. My hobbies usually back home, don't have the money to do it here because it's a little bit more expensive here. But I like to horseback ride and scuba dive, and I like to usually help out with retirement homes and foster kids. So that's like my main hobbies. Other than gaming, I also like video games a lot, but
Casey, did you notice that John Graber is online?
Hi, John, I'll put you down.
Okay. Now Casey has sent out to you all a copy of the old city transportation plan, and then the updated September 2021 plan.
2022.
Oh, 22, okay. So Casey, you got the floor.
Great. So in the packet I sent out, I did include our last transportation plan update, which was in 2009, just so that you all could see what our plan looked like before. And then before you, you have our first draft of what I assume will be the 2022 transportation system plan update. So this is one we've been meaning to do for a little while. And rather than just go through the plan, which I think is a little hefty, I've condensed it a little bit into a PowerPoint so we can talk about the changes and what you all need to look out for and what I would love your input on. So let's hop in. So the
yes.
plan,
Well, Casey, did you mail that out, or was that emailed?
the PowerPoint I didn't send out, the plans were emailed out, but I can also shoot them over to you again if you'd like. They're also on the city's website as part of the agenda. They're below that.
Yeah, no, I just noticed that Jerry had a hard copy, and so did John. So I guess they printed it out themselves.
We drove to the city hall and got it.
Oh, did you? Oh,
Yes.
well, I'll do that next time.
He'll
Yeah, I
give
like
it
a
to you
hard
if you
copy.
go there.
Yeah,
I
I'll
should have
do that.
mentioned that earlier. If any of you would
Yeah.
like a printed copy, I am happy to print one out and you are welcome to pick it up.
Great, I'll do that next
Don't
time.
want you
Thank you.
printing that many pages at your home.
That's a lot of pages.
Yes. All
All
right.
right, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. So the plan layout has not changed significantly. We've got a background section talking about the city, which I've added a little bit to. We've got an inventory of our current street system. We have the transportation improvement program, which is really the bulk of the plan. This is our project list that we then choose projects for our 6-year plan and the capital facilities plan. And these are projects that will get picked out and funded at the time that we have the funds and we deem them the highest priority. We then have the funding and implementation section, and then a brand new section, a pretty quick one I added, is future policy considerations. And we ended off with Appendix A, which has some required information we need to put in. Did I see your hand up, Carlos?
No, ma'am, just scratching
Okay.
my head.
Great. All right. So this is how I have set up this PowerPoint, just so that we can all kind of see what's going on. So I have the 2009 plan on the left, the 2022 plan on the right, and then things that have stayed the same in the middle. So in the 2009 plan, in our background section, we had a list of modes. We have kept this, we've just moved it to the inventory section. This is things like rail, air, train, I already said rail, but basically the modes of transportation. A slight change we also made is that the rail has now been deemed not to be viable for freight service, which was in the 2009 plan. Now we're thinking of it just as the Yelm Prairie Line Trail to Roy. The background also had the implementation section in the 2009 plan, which I moved into funding and implementation just because I thought it made a little bit more sense to keep them together. Our 4 main objectives have stayed the same. This is connected streets, having ways to bypass the urban core, funding projects through impact fees, and then funding projects through mitigation strategies. One new objective that I added is a multimodal streets policy. So this is something we already have incorporated into our development guidelines, but basically it just says that when we do projects and when we have development projects, we prioritize making improvements for cyclists and pedestrians and making sure that we're accommodating multiple modes of transportation. Another thing that's unchanged is we have to adopt a few existing documents. These are things like TRPC documents, as well as our comprehensive plan. We also have a little snippet in there that stayed the same, just information we have to put in to stay in compliance with the state. And then one new thing that I added in the 2022 plan is a little description of what a transportation plan is and why we have it. I don't know that a lot of members of the public will read this, but maybe they will. And this would help them to understand what it is a little bit more. Okay, any questions about the background? All right. For the inventory, this was snuck into the background in the 2009 plan, and now it lives by itself. But basically all we've added is a description of where Yelm is, where we sit between Mount Rainier and Puget Sound. We've talked about how the railroad is abandoned, and then we have changed some road classifications. There are just a few road classifications that have been changed, and most of these were things that are classified major or urban arterials that have now been pushed down a level, because there are some roads that TRPC and WashDOT do not classify as arterials. Arterials are our highest traffic roads outside of the freeway highway system. And so these have been pushed down to that neighborhood collector or commercial collector street. And when the bypass comes in, it's likely that some of these will need to change, but these are things like Grove Road. And I know we had run into this issue with mini storage that you have to be 500 feet from an urban arterial, and things like Grove Road are classified as an urban arterial that WashDOT and TRPC don't consider. So there have been some adjustments just to keep us in line with the TRPC and WashDOT classifications. And then our level of service standards wasn't in the 2009 plan. These are the letter grades that we assign to intersections, and they measure driver frustration and overall service at an intersection. So an A level is the best service. You barely have to wait, if at all. It's a very safe intersection and it runs very efficiently. In Yelm, I don't know that we have a lot of level A intersections. The acceptable level of service hasn't changed. We're just now putting it in this plan, where it previously just lived in our code in the comp plan. And just so everyone's aware, in our central business district, we do have an accepted level of service of F, which is a failure. But this is because a lot of our intersections are already operating at an F, so we can't deny projects that create an F level of service in an area that already has an F. So these level of service classifications are used to measure individual project impacts. So, our commercial district, I believe, has a level of service that's acceptable that is a D. So if we get a project application that their traffic is projected to make it an E, this is the evidence that we can use to force them to put in mitigation measures. So we do have level service F in the city, but we have it written in the plan that we are working to raise that level of service with the projects in this plan. And then at that point, we would raise it to a better level of service. Carlos, I see your hand up.
Yes, given the spiel that we got from Mr. Elliott about the loop won't be available to us or for our use until 2024, 2025. And I know people are probably tired of hearing me ask this, but who is responsible for actively and aggressively seeking funding that would alleviate some of this F level of service? And I'm talking about what I consider to be somewhat simple things that were addressed in the corridor study that we did a year and a half ago, whenever it was, 2019. Is there someone actively, aggressively seeking these grants and funding opportunities? Or are we just sitting, waiting for them to come to us?
So, I mean, with us growing our planning staff, we do have more resources available to apply to these grants. Cody, who now leads our department, he's had a few successful grants that he's gotten. And now that we've had the resources, I'm actually in the process of applying for a housing grant. So I think we have some more resources now to aggressively pursue that. I think we could be a little more aggressive about it. And then the other way that we get these funds is from development projects when they pay their transportation facilities charges. So each project has to pay a fee based on the number of trips they're expected to generate. And so we are constantly getting those. And with water rights coming in, we'll see a lot more of those that can then be used for projects.
Okay.
Hey, Casey, if I can just jump in for a moment as well. Commissioner Perez, as part of my job, I'm hooked into the planning newsletter that the state planning department sends out. And they will have news on different transportation grants as well. So we're monitoring that as a planning staff, as Casey said, and I'm keeping my eyes on that as well. So if anything comes open as far as grants in the future, we'll be sure to jump on that if we meet the eligibility requirements.
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you.
If I may too, I've actually been searching for some stuff through Washington for grants that would help with allowing like more people to walk, to bicycle, kind of getting some cars off the road. I've been looking into some of those options actually just as of last week. I started looking just to encourage more pedestrian use and less cars on those busy hour intersections. And yeah, so hopefully that could help in the future.
I'm sure it will. Once I keep seeing these people going past 2nd Avenue, trying to make a left turn on 1st. And I think that can be very dangerous here if it can get out of hand. And we're just going to grow more and more. I mean, we've got another 3 years before we can get any kind of relief with the loop. So, and we're just continuing to grow. So it's just going to get worse. All right. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate you giving us an update on that.
No problem. Okay, any more questions on the inventory? Okay. So next we've got our transportation improvement program. Again, this is the bulk of the plan. This is the project list, which we then use to pick out individual projects to work on. One thing you'll notice is a lot of the same projects from 2009. A lot of them haven't been completed and are still relevant. And so we will be still working to get funding for them. That said, there are a lot of projects from 2009 that were taken off. The Mossman Avenue is one that is in construction right now that was in the 2009 plan, and there were a couple others, Mill Pond Sidewalks. So we are carrying these out, and growth pays for growth. As we get more projects, we'll have the funds necessary to do these. So just at the beginning of the program list, we have a little section talking about what this is based on. So these are based on future travel conditions and models provided to us by Thurston Regional Planning Commission, TRPC. We've updated the model years to reflect the model they're using now, which I believe goes till 2035. And it shows you the problem intersections and areas of concern that you need to be aware of. So for the 2022 plan, I've changed it up a little bit in terms of structure. In the 2009 plan, we just had a list of projects, whereas now they're separated into 4 categories: street connections, that would be new connections, street improvements, intersection improvements, and pedestrian improvements. And I didn't put images with each of them, but there is a map at the back. And I have some pictures on these slides so that we can help, see where the projects are. Okay.
Casey, could you tell me where the trail projects fall, in which category? Are
That
they
would
under
be
the pedestrian?
Yeah.
Okay. I was
Yep.
thinking non-motorized, but that wasn't there. So thank you.
Well, we can change that to non-motorized. This is all a work in progress. And so this is the stage. This is our very first draft. So we're looking for comments and we're looking for things to improve. Okay, so first, I just want to review the street connections that were on the 2009 plan that are still on the 2022 plan. The first of which is Y1. Y1 is, of course, through the Highlands and then connects up with connects up with 507 to the south. This is one that is important to construct, but now that the Highlands project isn't as viable, we don't know when this will come online, but this is an important connection that my team has decided we do need to keep in the plan because it's something we know that we want to do eventually. It's just not our highest priority project. Y2 is still in here. This is the 507 loop around the southeast quadrant of the city. So it goes all the way down to the south of the city and connects up with Bald Hills and Yelm Ave. And then the last part of it is Walmart Boulevard. Again, this is, I would say, a medium to low priority. It's going to be a big project that we take individual chunks out of and work on one at a time. And so that's what you see, the Y2A, Y2B, Y2C. When we do tackle these, we'll tackle them one part at a time. Again, in continuing projects, we've got Y3. Y3 is this highlighted loop. Y3, the first part was already completed. That's the part that goes from the Mud Run roundabout to Cullen's. And then eventually it'll continue. We already have the right of way for the project. And again, that's the 2025 estimate. Y6, I know there's a lot in here. Y6 is the 105th mini loop. And so that's separated into segments. We've got the Mill Road to the Yelm Terrace subdivision. And then we've got Clark to Vansel Road. And then another one is the Y11. So this is a road that'll go just south of Cochrane Park. There is a subdivision coming in here, and as hard as Tammy fought, they would not build the road for their subdivision where we wanted this connection. So unfortunately, they didn't make the connection, but we were able to require them to dedicate right-of-way for it. So they dedicated land along their northern property line. So we do have the right-of-way for this connection, which will make it significantly easier when we're ready to build it. And that was our street connections. Moving on to pedestrian improvements, the rail trail is our big trail project. This goes along NP Road, and it's a continuing project. And then another one that covers a large area is the Central Business District sidewalks. We'd like to replace them with ADA compliant sidewalks. We've already done this in part of the Central Business District, but it's just something we want to keep in here as a continuous project.
Question,
Yes.
back to the Y1. Why is that? Well, maybe, can you explain to me why that Y1 is such a circuitous route? I mean, is that because of property restrictions or what? I mean, it just seems like it's it's a long way around to get to Rainier.
You know, I haven't dove into the Thurston Highlands environmental impact statement, the 1,000-some page document that looked at the environmental aspects of this area and was used to create this route. My guess would that it's because of topography. I believe it's pretty steep and forested in this whole area. And I'm sure you've heard the council talk about the 640 acres that's right in here. So I believe it's because of topography.
Okay. All right. That
But
just
I can
seems a
check into
long way
that more
around.
before our next meeting too.
That's fine.
There's also,
Thank you.
also wetlands in there.
Yeah, there's wetlands.
Ah, okay.
Okay. So,
I
and
have
then we, yeah.
one more thing to ask on the pedestrian improvements. On our original, or at least one of the capital improvement plans, we listed the linkages between the Y3 trail. There's a trail that's going to be alongside the new highway at Y3, and being able to put trail connectors in that connect to the Prairie Line Trail, as well as connectors to Longmire Park. And that was in our facilities plan, and I'm curious if that's not there anymore, or if it's being done by the state, or.
So that's something I'll look into for our October meeting.
Okay.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. You know, since we've lost our institutional knowledge of Tammy and Grant, this is going to be a big learning process for me, and you guys have a better memory than I do on a lot of this stuff. So when you think of things like this that you thought, well, we had talked about this and I think it should probably be in here, this is what I can add for next month's meeting. So I'll look into those connections to Longmire and the trail from Y3 and see what we can come up with.
Thank you.
Okay. And then we also have intersection improvements. The first one that's continuing that is in the back of our minds is this Burnett and 93rd realignment. Currently, they do not meet. And 93rd also, I mean, they both meet the road at an acute angle. So the vision for this is to realign it and come meet Yelm Ave at a 90-degree angle. There is still a question of whether a traffic signal or a roundabout would be most appropriate here. And this is more of an engineering question, but this is something they had originally put in a traffic signal in the 2009 plan, but a roundabout may be better suited for this location. That's something that we can discuss. And then another intersection improvement is right here in the yellow, and that's the Longmire Street and Yelm Avenue traffic signal. And the reason this is a vital place to have a signal is because we're finishing up this Mossman connector. And so as soon as we finish up this street connection, which should be very soon, we're just starting construction now. We're expecting that Longmire will have a lot more traffic from these mini loops. And so we do have it in our plan to put a traffic signal there. And then we have the realignment of Mill Road and 507, and which includes the construction of a left turn lane from Mill to 507. Another portion of this project that's fun to know is we will be receiving a contribution towards this project from the subdivisions that are coming in near Cochrane Park. So this is a case where their traffic study suggested that they contribute additional money on top of their traffic facilities charges. So this is one that I would expect we would construct in the next 6 years. Okay. And continuing projects again, it's a little chaotic here, but so first we've got Y4A, which is the Coates extension from Killian to Collins. So originally in the 2009 plan, this purple line, this little curved purple line shows where they were projected to put the street extension. Now you'll see there already is this road right here where my mouse is. This, to my knowledge, is a private street that's not improved to city standards. So there could be a discussion of if we could possibly acquire this road, widen it, and bring it up to city standards. That would fulfill the intent of Y4A. Y5 is a pretty broad improvement. This is just talking about Yelm Avenue improvements in a few different areas. So Y5C is talking about improving Yelm Avenue in the Central Business District. Again, this is an in-progress project that we'd like to keep in there to prioritize funding. Y5D is down here. This is improving Yelm Avenue between Five Corners and the Loop. And then we actually have a few phases of Y5 that we've added that I'll bring up in our new project list. Y8B is Solberg Street improvements. Y9 is talking about reconstructing Bald Hill. We also have a new Bald Hill project in this 2022 plan. It's a flooding study that we're already in the process of getting funding for. So these two projects, the Bald Hill reconstruction and the Bald Hill flooding study, will probably work together to figure out how to best reconstruct Bald Hill. Y10 is the Northern Pacific Road improvements. So bike lanes, sidewalks, just improving it to current city standards. And then Roten is a similar project to Northern Pacific in that both these roads just need to be improved to current city standards. Okay, any questions on this slide? All right, so now we're getting into the new projects that I believe will be pertinent in the time coming forward. So one of them is constructing sidewalks from Mossman Avenue to Cochrane Park along 2nd Street. If any of you have walked around here to get to this back entrance to Cochrane Park, I know I walk there because City Hall is right here. We don't have any sidewalks, and so we'd like to construct some starting where Mossman ends to get to the park safely. I did peruse the downtown corridor plan that Carlos mentioned, and one of the suggestions is putting in a pedestrian bridge that goes from the trail, the trail ends with that big wagon wheel. It would start there and it would go over to where the trail picks up by what's now the YMCA, Boys and Girls Club, Old City Hall. And this is something that can also be used as a wayfinding sign or, a community builder. This would be a pretty fun project for us to have right when you're driving through Yelm. It would be right in the heart of our downtown.
Mhm.
And then another project that is a little less specific is this concept of activated alleyways. So this picture I have in the top right is what this can look like. Something that the downtown corridor plan emphasized was using alleys as gathering spaces and as outdoor dining, different things like that. Especially, obviously this wouldn't work in all alleys, but we have a few alleys that they're not used really for traffic. I mean, we don't really want through traffic coming through an alley. And so this is something we'd probably partner with the chamber and individual businesses to help them revitalize that space. Any questions?
Yes. On our plan, why isn't the new projects portion put in there? At least I kept on looking for it in the transportation plan.
Right now, all the projects are kept together. They're not separated out. Like the 2009 plan had a lot of continuing projects from 2001, but they're all thrown together. If you'd like them split up, that is a change that we could make.
No, I you know, look, I can see them. So,
Okay, great. Okay. And we have a few new intersection improvements. One of them is to put a roundabout at 5 corners. This would be, you know, a larger roundabout. I believe this would also be a project with WashDOT to construct this, and we could go out for some state, federal funding for it. This would be an important part of, yeah, that 5 corners intersection, especially with how the road aligns with Bald Hills. I think a roundabout, a larger roundabout would be a really great project there. Another new area is right up here. This is the intersection by the new and old middle school. This is Coates, Edwards, Crystal Springs. So if you tune into the October study session, I will be presenting, we will be talking about putting a 3-way stop at this intersection. We've had pretty bad levels of service here with the new middle school coming in, and it's always been a safety issue just due to this angle that limits sight distance. We know people speed through there. So the temporary fix would be to put a multi-way stop in, but the transportation plan is talking about putting a roundabout with multimodal pedestrian cycle abilities just at this intersection. Yeah, so that's one of our new projects. And wrapping up our roundabouts is one right here. So this is West Road where it hits 103rd. So this is actually an intersection that, even though it's a little bit off the beaten path, we very often have a pretty long left turn queue right here. And again, it meets at more of an acute angle. And so this would be an area that would have a smaller roundabout, you know, not a 2-lane one, but just a little guy to keep traffic moving. Any questions on these? Okay. So our street improvement projects that are new, one of them is the Bald Hill flooding study. So this would go hand in hand with the reconstruction, but we are already seeking funding to do a flooding study on Bald Hills and see how we could reconstruct it to prevent flooding. You know, we've had a history of it there. I mean, Bald Hill is one of our higher traffic roads. And then another improvement that may not make it to the final plan is Yelm Avenue Boulevard improvements. So once the loop is in and we don't need Yelm Avenue to be this all traffic through Yelm Street, I know that it was Grant and I's vision to install planter islands and protected left turns along parts of Yelm Avenue, rather than just having a never-ending left turn lane that, you know, there's a lot of left turn conflicts. So this is something that may not make it to the final plan, just because I've learned even after the loop is constructed, it may not be favorable for the city to obtain Yelm Avenue from WashDOT. It may be in our best interest to have the state continue to own and maintain Yelm Avenue, just because we may not have the funding to maintain it. So this is something that it may not be possible, but I did want to gauge everyone's opinions and feelings about doing planter islands in this boulevard style.
I think it's a great idea if we can fund it.
Mhm.
I think it's
Anything
going
to
to
beautify the city.
it's going to take a while to be able to get there because we're going to have to do all the Y improvements, all the loops to be able to get enough traffic off of Yelm Avenue to do that.
True.
Yeah.
Yes, space is limited.
Yes.
Yes, so this probably would be one of those lower priority, longer term projects, but with this being a 20-year plan, we can keep those in.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is something we can think about in the months coming forward. And I'll chat a little bit more with our public works team and talk about their vision for, would we even acquire a part of Yelm Avenue? This is a conversation I haven't really had yet, but I think would be pertinent to this project in particular.
Casey, I read one of the things that said they're going to allow for the four-wheel off-road type of things, and I'm assuming they'll have to be licensed and plated type of thing. But
Yes.
that is something that WashDOT does allow? See, I'm just sitting there thinking, are they going to let them go on the 510?
To my knowledge, yes, they are allowed to go on all the streets in Yelm. Feel free to interject anyone if you know better. Yeah, the ATV ordinance was something that the Yelm police worked on, and I'm fairly sure they just wanted a way to be able to track ATVs. A lot of people use them to go to the grocery store for a quick trip. I'm not sure if they can go on 510. I believe they can. This may also be an interesting thing to put in the plan, just to talk about, this is a new development. Are there any safety implications? Are people going to be passing ATVs? So that is an interesting need.
If we could add on golf carts, that would be great.
Right. Have you guys seen some of these things called the unicycle, the motorized unicycles?
Yep.
There,
Yeah.
those are scary.
Yeah.
Is that the one
Yeah.
people stand
Those are-
on?
Just individual cycle.
They're just, you just stand on them and it's a single wheel you stand on and you just go fast.
Yep. Yeah.
Sounds like they would fit in the bike lane, maybe off the sidewalk.
They're riding them on the main roads in a lot of places, but
Holy smacks.
I know, just scary.
Yeah. Okay, well, that wrapped up our project list. I do want to take time at the end to talk about the new projects and anything that you all think we've missed. But before we do that, let me just quickly go through the last sections of the plan. So the funding and implementation section is pretty similar to the 2009 plan. We have the same funding options. I've just added description to what these all are. So these are grants, Transportation Improvement Board funds, individual project fees, and we do get some revenue from the gas tax. And then we also use this section to describe our joint implementation strategy with Thurston County and other regional agencies. In the 2009 plan, there was a quick blurb about, the immediate planning horizon is between 0 and 6 years. Mid-range is 6 to 15 years. Long range is maybe 20. I took that out because I didn't know that it was really relevant because we didn't classify the projects by immediate, mid-range, and long-range priorities. This would be a question to you all. We don't, in 2009 and in the draft 2022, we don't attach a priority level to the projects. is this something that we want to do, or is this something that we want to continue how we've done it historically, which is allow the city engineer, who's now Pat, he works along with the planning department and public works to cherry pick projects to fund year by year.
I'd love to have some priorities because I have some, well, I have some biases on which things I'd like to make sure get funded, but we should hear from other people. People know my biases of the trails and the bridge and that kind of stuff.
I agree with, Ann, because I have priorities too. I'd like to see some changes made in the downtown area. And so I'd like to see things prioritized
Okay,
instead of the, just on someone's whim.
yeah. Okay, so for next month's meeting, I'll add some priorities. Maybe we'll do a low, medium, high, or a short range, medium range, long range, and then we can discuss which ones need to be moved around and adjusted. Okay, and then a new thing that I added in the 2022 plan is future policy considerations. This section doesn't have a lot of ramifications for this update, but it basically directs the city that in future updates, these are things that we want to consider. Climate change in terms of how can we limit vehicle miles traveled? How can we encourage alternative modes of transportation? Electric vehicle infrastructure. I did talk about, we have a few places in the city where you can charge your electric vehicle. And going forward, it may be more important to incorporate charging stations and allow people to have that option. Another one is equity. Do we have sidewalks and safe bicycle facilities all across town, or are there some areas that historically have not had street improvements and maybe are in need of some? This is something that we didn't look at with this update, but I'm hoping to be able to do along with the next cycle of updates. And then the last one is online work. So we know that people right now are working from home, and I would say there's a belief that work from home will continue, but we really don't know as planners to what extent, and we don't know how much we should change our traffic modeling in the future in a post-COVID world. So this is something that, if online work continues to be a trend, it may be that our peak traffic hours change, or the most heavily trafficked road networks change. And so this is a question that, we just don't really have the data right now to make recommendations for, but it's something that we want to focus on in future updates. And lastly, we have the Appendix A. This is something that's required for the state. We have to give an inventory of all state-owned traffic facilities along with their levels of service and state-funded projects. So I threw that in. The only change is that 510 Alt from Mud Run Roundabout to Cullens is already constructed. So this has been added to our state-owned facility inventory. So now I would like to get everyone's opinions on things they felt were missing from the plan, maybe areas of concern in our transportation network you feel weren't addressed, anything about that, anything about the layout of the plan.
I think you're doing a great job there, Casey.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think you've jumped in and done a great job.
I
Trying
really
to keep
like,
the ship afloat.
Yes.
excellent. Probably the one thing I did notice in the 2009 map on the back that I liked was the names of the roads.
Okay.
Yes,
That-
yes.
That would be the one thing. I think what you've done is truly outstanding, Casey.
Oh, I like that, Jerry, because I had to pull up a city map to make
See where you
make
were,
sure I
yeah.
understand. Exactly.
Yeah, that map was just a quick addition so we could see where we're at. But yeah,
Great.
road names in the final one. And when you say road names, you're talking about labels. Did you also like, I know in the 2009, they have a panel with the project names. Is that what you're referring to? Or in addition?
It was on that map. I don't know, it'd be nice to have, but it, like it showed which the name of the roads that they were talking about. So you had, Bald Hill Road, Yelm Avenue, all these roads named as you look at it.
Yeah, I see what you're
uh,
talking about.
Yeah,
There it is, yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
the one I'm seeing.
I
There you
do,
go,
I
yeah.
do like that, but I like what you've done. I'm just very happy with it.
Yeah. Yeah, but some of the lesser known streets are, that I've hardly ever drive on, it'd be nice to have some of them on, especially when you, you're trying to find where you are on the map.
Mm-hmm. Sounds great. Okay. So let me pull up the map from the new plan, just so we can see the whole layout of projects. I want to make sure that if there are any areas of concern in the city that you feel were missed in this draft, that we address those. Okay, let me see if the rest of the map will load. Yep. So as you can see, the projects aren't laid out. They're not laid out completely evenly. Tahoma Terra is a newer area in the city and already has improved roads, and we're requiring improvements as this further develops. We've got a lot down in this Bald Hills, Mill Road, Mill Pond area. And we have a little bit less in the northeast part of the city, which I think for the most part tracks well with, newer developments need less improvements. But are there any problem intersections or problem areas that you all feel we've missed?
You may not have missed it where Y3 and Y2 converge on 507. Is that going to be a traffic circle or will that be a stoplight?
That'll be a traffic circle.
Okay,
And I'll see if it makes sense to add that into the plan. I know that is part of the loop. It's funded, it's in that 2025 projection, but I'll see if it's appropriate to put it in the plan.
Mhm.
It at least should be mentioned, even if it's not in the project list.
I think Y1 needs to be hooked on to Tahoma Boulevard, just graphically,
Okay,
because it is on the 2009 one.
okay, perfect.
Yeah, I think actually that's right where Y1 ends, where you're talking about.
Yeah.
The new well up there, isn't it? Right there?
I think it is.
Yeah, yeah. So I think that,
Right in this area.
I think it actually is connected, but
I think it's connected, or, yeah, I think it's already been laid out for connection.
it's a gravel road at least.
Right.
Okay, well, I have a few changes to make for October, namely, I think attaching a priority list to all the projects. I'll also look into the Longmire Park and the trail connections
Mhm.
and see if these are things that maybe should be added. I'm going to look a little further into the Boulevard improvements. I personally feel very passionately about the Boulevard improvements, but it may be that it's not viable for us to ever take over Yelm Avenue. So I'll look further into that. And so I think we're good on the transportation plan. Let me actually, I believe I have one last slide to share. So, can everyone see this little timeline? Okay, so this timeline may change depending on how many times we want to do some revisions. October, November, December, I'm hoping, probably October, November, I'm hoping that we can sign off. And then I believe there's interest in having an open house. In terms of public participation, how do you all feel? We could do a public hearing similar to the code updates, or I know some staff felt that that we could hold a public town hall at the community center with, you know, boards and more materials. We can also look into doing, I do want to allow public participation online through some kind of survey on our website. What's the gauge here of, would we rather do a public hearing or an open house?
Is that going to depend on where we are with COVID at that time, since we're now doing a Zoom for the Planning Commission? And it's in September now. In October, if we're doing a Zoom for planning, it would seem strange if we're doing an open house. So I think we might have to see where we are at that point.
I agree with you, John. I think an open house would be ideal, but given the circumstances that we find ourselves in, it may not be feasible. We'll just have to do a Zoom thing.
The other committee that I work on for the state, I know WDVA, Washington State Department of Veterans Affairs, will not be able to do anything in-house where we person-to-person meetings until mid-November or December, mid-December. So that.
I'm all for transparency, but at the same time, I think we have to take into consideration, you know, what's going on all around us. So,
well, there are some ways to do a virtual open house that could be done. You know, if you publicize it and put it on
yes,
on the web and ask for feedback, input, that might be the way we have to do it.
Yeah.
That makes sense. So I'll come up with a draft of a virtual open house that I can show you all during next month's meeting. And we can go over the changes, go over the virtual open house, and then we could open up the website for a month and then review comments and also do an official public hearing if anyone would like to give comments over the Zoom webinar. And then after that, we will do our environmental determination, which is just a checklist on staff's part, and notify commerce. And then we will present it to City Council for adoption. There's no big rush on getting the plan updated. You know, it doesn't have to happen by the end of the year or anything. So I think at this point, it would be prudent that we will just work together as long as we see fit until everyone is happy with the plan.
Okay.
great.
Good.
Thank you, Casey.
Yeah,
Thank you.
very good.
So that takes care of the transportation plan update. Is any other thing else, Casey, we need to bring on that?
Not on the transportation plan. The only comment I had left was that I know we are late in electing a new chair and potentially vice chair.
Ready, huh?
So
Yeah, you know, if it makes it easier, I would do. So I'd be like doing a double term. but I believe Floyd was the vice chair and would be to move up, and I have no pride and ownership. So it's up to the committee and the council to determine what you want to do.
I think we should make the chair
Pondering.
position a 10-year plan.
And
I
John, you're
second
gonna
that.
fill it in, right?
I second that. You're doing a good job, Jerry. Just keep it up. That's all right. We'll keep
I
you
will
there.
only second that if we continue with the current chair.
Okay.
Yeah, really.
Here,
Okay,
here. Here, here.
okay. So
Hey, seriously, I
that's-
thought we made that decision last, like 8 months ago that Jerry would take it at least one more year.
Yeah, okay. So,
That is
okay,
Floyd.
okay.
I'm good either way. Somebody
I
just tell me
will-
what to do.
Well, I'd like to, ask who has not served as chair? I think it's only Floyd and Bob. Is that correct? All right, Carlos?
Yeah.
You
No,
were
no,
chair.
I've chaired before. I chaired a long time ago.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, Floyd's never chaired, I know that, but, and Bob's never chaired either.
No.
Yeah, you're right.
no, Neither one. I think
Mhm.
those two need to get the experience.
Well, Floyd will be next, and then Bob could move into vice.
There you go.
That's a good nomination.
Yes.
Yeah.
We got a thumbs up from Floyd, so that must be all right.
Yeah. And don't they usually transition in January, February, unless Jerry wants to do another year?
I'll do another year if you want me to, and
Yes.
that way I know Floyd's got the new slot he's doing over at the realty business. So I guess we can move on to subcommittee reports. And
Well, there's a lot going on in the park side, other than, Prairie Days and things like that happening, even on a partial basis. And there's still a lot of activities in the park. There's a new dog park that is over. There's some design work that's being done by St. Martin's, by some senior class members of St. Martin's that are doing, at no charge to the city, are doing design work for the new dog park that's on the other side of the water reclamation center, in the new road that's been cut through there. And so once we get those designs done by St. Martin's, then we'll start the process of actually building a dog park to those designs. The next one is Prairie Line Trail Extension. We've got some of the funding to be able to go to the river. And there's a new fellow, and I can't remember his name. He reports to Cody. And he's working with the contract firm that's doing the design on the extension of the trail. So there's a lot of projects, a lot of activity. And of course, Cochrane Park as well is being rebuilt. The ponds are being redone, and rebuilding that park step by step. So any questions? People have seen a lot of activity out there probably this summer.
And on that extension of the rail, are you talking, when you said to the river, you're talking to the trestle?
Yes, to the trestle. This is the trestle that's down by the pines.
Yeah.
And not the other, there's other trestles across the river, but this is the one that's by the bend at the Oxbow bend at the pines.
Right.
And apparently we've got the money to go to the trestle, but not refinish the trestle
That
yet.
trestle, yeah.
Okay, John, do you have any?
Nope, we haven't met.
Uh, Is there any other subcommittee reports? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion that we adjourn.
I make a motion that we adjourn.
Have a second. Okay, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Okay, opposed? Motion carried. We will see you next month. Have a good day. Be safe. Wear your mask.
Thank you, Casey.
And thank you,
Thank you,
Casey.
Casey.
and Sarah,
Outstanding
you
job.
all.
Casey,
Great
Landon,
job.
thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you, Sarah.
Bye.
and Landon, too.
Thank you.